everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sembang Sessions. Now, my name is David. I am one of the writers and interviewers today.
Hi everyone, I'm Caroline. I'm the project director of the Sembang Sessions project.
And today we have Ram. He is a pupil in law. He recently completed his LLB from University Malaya. He's been in the debating scene for over a decade, and he's done everything basically under that sun in that respect. He's a writer, he's an orator, he's a coach, and at this very moment, he is our guest on today's episode of Sembang Sessions. Ram, how are you feeling today?
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Feeling good, feeling good. Excited to talk about so many things.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. There's an insane amount to cover. You have an insanely elaborate CV. It's crazy. Going through that was insane. Dang, how do you
Yeah.
feel about that?
It's time more than anything, it's definitely not all what I wanted, definitely wanted plenty of achievements that I never came close to. But ultimately, when I look back, it has been an amazing journey, and I enjoyed the process more than anything. Yeah. So yeah.
Beautiful. That's a great sentiment, honestly. Yeah, so we're gonna get into all of that today, and
Yeah,
hopefully you can walk us through that process itself. Yeah, stopping the smell of flowers is definitely a much more beautiful approach to it, don't you think?
definitely. Very true.
Right, now, right off the bat, let's get into like right from the foundation, right? How did you start? Like how did debating become something for you?
Actually, when I was in secondary school, I'm from a relatively small town in Kampa. It's not known for its debating lab, especially not in a huge state like Perak. We're not as competitive as Penang and Selangor, but because we're quite huge, we have a lot of schools. So it's what districts like us, what we do is we go out there, we compete, we have a bit of fun, then we go back home. But when I started debating when I was 15, teachers thought, just put it in. Somehow we made it through districts. We would lose in state. Then in my final year in high school, we finally made it to nationals, and we went to Kelantan. Very anticlimactic. You finally make it to nationals, and the year it is hosted in Kelantan. No shame against people from Kelantan and all that. Just not what I expected at the time. I had a great time also, but maybe that's a story for later. But anyway, after after finishing high school debate, Dato Vira, and getting into UM, that's where the real journey started. I feel because whatever I thought was debating in high school is just not. It's not the same. Varsity debating is completely different. The expectation, the types of topic, the reality of joining tournaments and competition. That is where it really started. I felt my debating career. So, and from first year itself, Prof. Chandran, or as we know him as Boss, he's the debate coach. He's quite famous as a debate coach. So it was very interesting to go there to feel and then to get coached by him properly, and then getting into that system where so many famous debaters at the time, Vinod and Leroy had just come off breaking open at Worlds at the time. So I was fortunate to be in a period where debating was still a big thing in UM. It was the perfect place to continue building that passion. So that's where it really started. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's honestly fantastic. I think no, yeah, I think debating in that time was probably that was the golden era,
Yeah.
I think. That was the golden years. I remember watching like I remember watching debates in that time like from really young age because my parents are also in debate. And yeah, y'all went hard. Y'all did not hold back those times. The
Yeah.
professionalism was there, but it was wow. Like there was fire in every word, and you can like
Yeah.
if you're smart enough, you can sense the underlying messages. But on that note, right, going from I want to touch on that point of going from high school debating to uni level debating? Because recently I also got a taste of that. I was fortunate to be a part of like an organizing committee for a debate recently, and I really thought I had it. I did not. I personally I saw a difference between how high school level debating is very formatted versus how uni level debating is entirely just around
Yeah,
the spirit
fluid.
of that motion
Yeah.
based, right? But
Yeah.
I want to hear from you, like diving deeper into it. What was your like initial reactions and how did you build off of that, right? And
Mm,
rise to where you are.
yeah. I think to be fair, at the time, it it may seem to some people that is a gap. That a lot of great debaters, they start off in high school properly debating. They go to open tournaments in high school. They get coaching in academies that have trainers that are experienced varsity debaters and all that. So you get that exposure from a very young age. But I didn't have that as much. So when I got into uni, I didn't, I didn't anticipate or I didn't understand what a challenge it would be to adapt to varsity debating. I just assumed it would be just like what I did in high school. So even though it was extremely difficult to understand at first and was very challenging in my first year, uh, what I do think is that because I just thought it cannot be that different. It cannot be that different. Before I knew it, I just adapted. So that's what I'd say. In one sense, you get into varsity debating and you feel a big gap. It may feel frustrating. It may feel like an uphill battle. But to be fair, you don't know how challenging it is. So you look for any similarities, and if you zone in on the similarities, there's enough of you to feel confident that you can keep growing. And I feel that is true in any endeavor. Doesn't matter if you have additional training or you have an added advantage. What matters is if you're willing to accept that it will be extremely challenging in the beginning, but if you put in the time, not even the effort. Sometimes the effort is not even necessary. It's just the time. Um, it will be it will be surmountable. It's easier said than done. Sorry, it's easier than just you know giving up so fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. Yeah.
So like on that, right? You know, so then would you say that you didn't really notice the change, like as you developed
Yeah. Yeah. I
debating?
didn't I didn't really notice the change. I think as I reflect, I can see so many differences. But as I was going through it, it just felt the appropriate amount of upgrade. Like when you go from school to university or from primary school
Mhm.
to high school, yeah, it's very organic. So I felt the same. The workload was the same. In fact, I enjoyed it more because there was more training at the time. Nobody
Mhm.
likes wasting time training, but to be fair, I didn't enjoy going to school as much while in university. I took any chance I could to bunk class, but I did enjoy attending trainings because it's fun, it's interesting, it's a place where you challenge yourself freely, and
Mhm.
there's no consequences in training,
Yeah,
because it's training. What's the worst that you could do? So
exactly.
that was very nice. So if you are in that type of mindset, you won't notice the difference, and before you know it, you've already adapted completely.
That's great. That's honestly great. No, I resonate with that a lot myself as well. Also I went from the super noob horrible debater and I ended up at some
Yeah,
point coaching my team in high school.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think if you asked me that same question, I myself wouldn't be able to pinpoint when exactly I became like decent. It just happened over time. But on that point as well, on coaching, right? Now, if I'm correct, you ended up coaching UM's debate team.
I helped lah. Like it's common practice. Like after you graduate, after you leave, you come back, you try to serve, you try to help. You try to help. You attend sessions, you attend camps, you do a demonstration, things like that. Yeah, you help out the
Yeah.
club. Yeah, yeah. In that sense, yeah.
Yeah. So, and on top of that, you were also you're also like the team captain, right? At some point.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So like being that, right, the coach, and on top of that also team captain. I assume it's like in separate years when you come
Yeah,
back, but
correct.
um having those both roles, it's kind of like, especially in UM, right, in that peak of its era, it's like kind of calling yourself king of the world, I
To
would
be
say.
fair, to be fair, I don't think I was at the peak of UM debating. I think our peaks happened right before I came in and right after I left. Like right before I came in, we broke open in Worlds. Right after I left, we broke open in Australs and we achieved our best record in ABP. Kuhan and Rashwin made the semi-finals, you know. And last year I think Asan and Kuhan made the finals of Oxford. So that is the peak as it is now. I think that is where it's best. I kind of oversaw an era of transition. We were pretty good. I'm not going to say that we didn't have achievements in my time. We broke in majors and we did relatively well in national tournaments and all that. But I think ultimately, my job at the time when I was captain was more of how do we get from the mountaintop and now that we're nothing, how do we go back to where we should be, and that can be frustrating because immediately after my seniors left, we know Leroy Patrick, we went to tournaments and we didn't break at all, in majors. We even hosted a major. We hosted a major and we didn't break, in 2018. I remember vividly. So it's very frustrating at the time, but you just keep at it. The good thing is at the time, even though I was inexperienced, even though I didn't have the background, I was still being given opportunity because at the time there was just nobody else, you know. So I got to go for majors. I got to travel. I got attention from the coach because I was one of the few people that were there, that were present, on top of other seniors lah, that had already been there for a couple of years, Amanda, Tess at the time, so that was the challenge. Not king of the world, but different challenge, but nonetheless enjoyable, enjoyable because at that time we all felt inferior, but we all felt together. There was it was a good sense of camaraderie. And then eventually the inferiority just disappeared because we started achieving things. We started making progress in our careers as debaters. Yeah. The first 2 years was just, we're not going anywhere. We're not moving. And it's frustrating. You've put in so much time, you've put in so much effort, and you're not seeing anything being reflected. So that was frustrating. But because we all felt that together, it formed a bond. And then and that bond is irreplaceable. My first 3 years of uni was just as great as my last 3 years in uni, but different. Yeah.
It's
That's
very
amazing.
wonderful how you cope and how you have dealt with the failure that you just mentioned, or as a team that you mentioned, camaraderie. So, how has coping with this type of failure or this sense of rejection almost along the way, especially as team captain of debate, how has it
Uh, you
been?
know, yeah, that's a very good question actually, and that leads into the very nice topic of debating because that's essentially what debate is training you. I think a lot of people will claim that the best benefit of debating is that it makes you a structured speaker, it makes you a good communicator, it improves your oratory skill, it encourages confidence. All of that is true. And for some people, that may be the most important aspect of debating. But personally, for me, I think the most important aspect of debating is dealing with rejection because every time you debate a topic, you are expecting and you with your heart completely believe that you are right, because that's what you're supposed to do in a debate. You're supposed to defend your side with the belief that it's impossible for you to lose. Doesn't matter what the motion is. So you go out there with that mindset and you're trying to convince the judge or the other side or the audience, whatever, of the same, that uh, my side is correct. and I'm right. Listen to me. And oftentimes that's just not the outcome that you get. The audience is not with you because they cannot understand you, or they're just using their phones or playing their Nintendo Switches. I know I've been guilty of that myself. Because you're bored. You're not giving the speech. Why should we pay extra attention? So, and that can be the case for judges sometimes, or maybe the opponents. It's not as engaging of a debate. You have an expectation of how the debate should have gone, and it's not going your way. And that can be very, very jarring, and then to hear the result after that, that the judge felt, you were wrong completely. And in fact, not only you were wrong, the other side was right. It's not an easy feeling to swallow consistently. Even if you don't like the spot, nobody likes being told they're wrong, especially by a person that they feel is wrong. The judge thinks I'm wrong, he's wrong, and you're not going to accept that criticism easily. But if it keeps happening, 5 debates you lose, 6 debates you lose, 8 debates you lose, 10 debates you lose. 6 months later, and you're not convincing anyone. You start to think, okay, maybe there's some truth to the criticism. Maybe there's some something I can do, something that I should change. That's the first benefit. But more importantly, is that people will tell you you're wrong all the time. Sometimes they are wrong, sometimes they are right. So what? Move on. Next point, next debate. I think Roger Federer said it best also. How great of a tennis point you score, or how bad of a tennis point you lose, it's just 1 point. So I feel the same. It's just one debate. And I think that's how you deal with failure. That's how you deal with rejection. Whatever it is, it's just one moment. Plenty of opportunities moving forward. And whatever opportunities that have passed has passed. What can you do about it? So that's the same thing. That's what debate trains you. It's easy thing to say. It's an easy thing to say, just forget about it and move forward, but it's very difficult to practice. It's very difficult to accept as a person, because you feel you've put in a lot of investment, you've made a lot of commitment. But debate is what helps you move on. Because if you don't, you're going to lose the next debate as well. You're going to lose the next point if you're not focused on the point right in front of you. You don't have time to feel frustrated, to reflect. Next round is literally in the next 10 minutes. So that is what debate trains you. And I feel that is the most important value of what debate gives you. So as that was happening to me over the course of my first 3 years, that all the other stuff about, being responsible as captain and not meeting expectations, all the other stuff of making so many mistakes while you're in university, you just let go because you have to move forward. You have to focus on the next thing. And that's what debate trains you. So I never felt that. I never felt the failures weigh on me for very long. Yeah. And that is thanks to debate. Yeah.
Here. Honestly, here. I got no words. That's so well said. I think for a lot of people, and I think the beautiful part about that sentiment isn't just hearing it, it's especially beautiful for those who learned it the hard way, right? Like, you appreciate it more after going through that crucible like process before ending up in that conclusion, I assume.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't think there's any way to get there unless you go through it,
Yeah.
hard way, easy way. As long as you experience, I think you get there. And sometimes it's tougher for some people, it's easier for some, but doesn't matter. I think ultimately it's you making the choice to keep moving, and
Mhm.
eventually you'll get somewhere, and eventually you like it wherever you get to, because you know, yeah, that's all I say to you.
Great, man. Honestly, fantastic. Now, all right, we're gonna get some opinions now.
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people hold the opinion that debating is one of those sports that's like only feel like super privileged. You go debate lah. Debate lah. See what I did there?
Hmm.
But and it's generally for those who like reside in bigger cities like KL, if you're in Sarawak and Kuching, that kind of thing. But how would those who are not in those areas, right? And I kind of think I know where your sentiments might lie, but I want to hear from you. like people who come from outer city, outer state, how would they get access to these things to debate and get to that level which you went to?
I think I think again good question because I myself come from a background that
Mm,
is found it not accessible. Like it was just completely new to me when I went into uni and realized that the world of debating is so much bigger out there, compared to my small microcosm. The sad thing is that there are so many people out there who recognize this earlier than I did. When they are 14, 15, they already understand that high school debating is not what debating is. There's so many bigger things out there. And they want to be a part of it. They want to access it, but they can't because of one reason or another. And how should they go about it? I think the first step is always whatever you can do for free, you do it. There's so many resources, especially now on YouTube, live streams of so many debates that you can watch and that you can appreciate. Or the best thing you can do is just, tournament tabs, are also quite easy to access. Get the tabs, go through the motions, prepare a speech a day. Before you know it, by the time you actually reach a situation where you have an opportunity to experience and get exposed to full debating, like when you get into uni or you move to a different city or whatever, you would have already made a significant amount of commitment. You've already invested in this sport that you are particularly passionate about because the passion to argue is present in everyone, I feel. Even to some extent introverts. The passion is always there. Everybody wants everyone to know how smart they are, or that they know something that nobody else knows, or that I'm right and you are wrong. It's very basic, yes. What to do, humans, so debate is a fantastic way to do that, to channel that feeling appropriately and without consequence. So it should be as accessible as it could be, and I think that is what organizations and institutions like what you are trying to do, and what other academies are trying to do. Like I work for MIDP part time, and it used to be a big event called Scars. It used to be a big event where they did it in only in Klang Valley. Now they're doing it in basically state by state, all the way from Perlis all the way down to Johor, and even in Borneo. So it's smaller as a result because it's not having to compile everyone to come to here, but at the very least it becomes more accessible. So it's initiatives like this, in complement to you trying and doing your best as you can, that will give you the best combination of getting this exposure, even though it might not be as accessible in the beginning. And ultimately, the second thing I'd say is just be patient. If it is, if debate is really for you and you really have a passion for it, ultimately, if you work hard enough in other areas of your life, in school, to get into a good school, to get into a good university, or to some way or another get into a place where debating is more accessible, then you can start your journey there. No, nothing wrong with only becoming a professional varsity debater only when you start being a university. Who says you need a background? Yeah, it's not fundamental. It helps definitely, but it's not fundamental. So many amazing varsity debaters out there got their start only when they came into varsity. Some of them only became good in English after they entered varsity because they are international foreign students. Yeah, but they just have a passion to argue. So somehow they find their way. So
mm,
that's what I'd say, lah.
that's great. Yeah. You mentioned SCARS also earlier on. I myself graduated from SCARS 2019 in Sarawak. That
Great,
was
yeah.
personally for me, SCARS was like that was the turning point because that was on my second year of debating, and that was when I started really taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the chance to you I assume you coach for SCARS as well, right?
No, because once I became a trainer for MIDP, SCARS is usually happening over the weekends. So
Uh-huh.
I have my own classes to teach. So I would have, yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So then in
I
that scope,
was,
right?
yeah, yeah, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Sorry, my bad. What were you saying?
No, no, I was just saying, I myself went for scars actually when I was 16 years old. Like you, it was a great experience. Yeah, I
That's
enjoyed it.
so both like Scars alumni lah together.
Yeah,
Nice. Got that connection also. Now, okay, so later on, right, like you said, you had to teach literal classes. Like you ended
mm,
up coaching for MIDP. What weekends, right? You said.
yeah,
So that was that was during your LLB, right?
yeah. In my last semester, my last 2 semesters in LLB, I coached MIDP. Yeah.
What? Look, your final year, final two
No
semesters.
lah, nothing at the time because I was extending actually, so I didn't have as many subjects. So my schedule was relatively free.
Okay, but then right, so going from being the debater, right, being the guy who speaks in the front, and I assume maybe judging sometimes, right,
Yeah, yeah.
into now, okay, now teacher, just like that, right? So how
Mm.
was that change? How was going from being the speaker to the one now doing the training?
Initially, actually, it was very upsetting because as fun as teaching is, it's not as fun as debating, because you're in complete control of the speech. But everything has to end at some point. And once I moved into teaching and I started becoming more invested in teaching, I started planning for my classes. I started thinking, how do I unlock these kids? How do I share the feeling I'm feeling for debates with them? And make them see what I see, but earlier, so that they can be more informed about their choices moving forward, and have more time to make decisions I wish I had more time to make. So that is interesting, and that is something debating will never give you, because that's a different challenge altogether, and still has a lot to do with debating as a sport. You start thinking, how do you make these aspects of debating and communicate this aspect in this way that is interesting, and you start approaching what you read. Like when I have classes, when I was a debater, yes, I read a lot, but when I started having classes, I started approaching what I read differently. I'm not only looking for the latest updates, I'm also looking for what is interesting, what is jarring, like what is something that will hold the attention of kids, and make them interested in wanting to communicate this in some way or another to their friends at school, to their parents after class, whatever. Point is, they start talking about these things, so that's a completely unique challenge, but still a lot to do with debating. So it's different, it's new, and that really felt nice. After so many years of debating, it just felt nice to do something different, to do something related but separate. Yeah,
Yeah. I think I mentioned also like I ended up coaching, so I share that sentiment with you because yeah, it starts off really mundane, right? Because now you're in, especially I assume you used to train like people starting from zero, right?
yeah, correct.
So it's like now you have to go through the entire motion of okay, this is what the first speaker does, this is what the second speaker does, and then now you're also trying to build a passion for something they've never done before in their life. But then yeah, it's a beautiful feeling.
It is.
But okay, after those years, right, or that time that you taught, what was your key way of two things? Number one, getting these absolute noobs interested in debate, and number two, what was your best piece of teaching that was like the easiest way to understand what debating was?
I think firstly, how do you communicate to the students these things? I think the easiest way to not only students lah, or beginners, or children. I think in general, the incentive is usually humor. That's how you usually grab them in. Once if you start somewhere with with a touch of humor in anything that you do, especially in speeches. And I disagree, lah, but I think a lot of people know me as a person that gives funny speeches, especially towards the latter end of my career. I don't know if I disagree, but I do think it's something I try to, at least. But I think when you are able to use humor, you really make them invested, because if you capture the attention, I think you're 50% there already. Sometimes the biggest problem is not that how do you make them interested, how do you make them invested, how do you make them see what you see. Those are all later. Sometimes the most important thing is, first, how do I get their attention, how do I make them listen to what I have to say. And usually that starts with humor, because they want to laugh, they want to be engaged, and humor is one of the easiest way to engage. You can engage with sentiment, emotion, but that is always challenging. Sometimes, like, for example, so many times in debates I've been asked to speak in the perspective of a woman, because we have motions on feminism and all that. And it's very clear I'm not a woman. Neither do I have any experience being one. So I should by right not have any opinion to speak on what the feminist movement should do, or what a particular woman in a particular situation should do. But you can't say no. You have to debate the motion, you have to make that topic. So you just have to acclimatize. So it's the same thing. You just have to make people sorry, you just have to allow the opportunity for these people to engage with you. And if you want sentiment that is emotional, no woman is going to hear my perspective on feminism and feel the emotion that I'm feeling, because I cannot feel that emotion. Same thing for LGBT communities, or ethnic minorities that I'm not part of. I will never be able to emotionally reach them. But will I be able to reach them through humor that is completely uh, unrelated to your identity? Very possible. So that's what you try to do. You try to reach people through universal methods, and I find humor to be the most universal. So I think that's the first thing, lah. That's my approach. Second question is that you've asked what's the best method I've done in teaching, not in terms of concept, individual concepts of debating, but in terms of the idea of debate as a whole. It's this thing called tennis debate. It's a very popular activity that makes people very interested in debating. So it's just basically, you line up, you separate your group into two groups, and then one side will be on government, one side will be on opposition. Whoever speaks first on government is immediately responded to by the first person on opposition, and then the next person on government has to respond to the first person on opposition, then so on and so forth. It's like a tennis. It's like tennis. It keeps going back and forth. And I find that to be the easiest activity and easiest way to communicate what debating does as a feeling. Because when you explain it or when you do it, you don't feel anything. But when you participate in the exercise and you start listening, you cannot wait for your opportunity to respond against the person right before you. I've heard what he said. He's wrong. I have something to say. I can't wait for my turn to speak. Then that is what you're trying to build. That is what you're trying to encourage. Once you get that feeling, then you start feeling, I want to be better at doing this. How do I be better? I listen to what the coach has to say. That's usually the kickstart. Yeah.
So kind of like just forget the theory and everything first. Just
Yeah.
get them
the feeling.
excited for it.
Yeah. Get you excited. Exactly.
No, that's cool. I've never actually heard of that method before. That's so there's zero prep time, just zero
Oh, no,
anything.
you have prep time. I'll give you a topic. Then I separate you into groups, and I give you maybe a couple of minutes. But eventually, the most important person to prepare is usually the first two people, because
Yeah.
they will have no opportunity to respond. They have nothing but the arguments to stand on. But after that, it's all about listening and responding, which
Mhm.
people are willing to do when they have to, when they are interested in doing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I humor is such a great way to reach people, and I've never actually thought of like coaching debate or teaching debate in that manner, because debate always seems like such a serious or such a theory.
I yeah, I disagree. I think I agree that debate is formal, but I think ultimately debate is free. That's what debate should. That is what um, debaters strive to do. Uh, they try to be free. But sorry, I cut you off at your question. Please continue.
Oh yeah. I I really I've been thinking about what you mentioned, that there's a huge difference. There's almost like a chasm between high school debating and varsity debating. And as someone you who has been through both, and I'm now coaching children and kids and teens, how have you tried to bridge that gap to help them see what like the world of varsity debating, or what debating actually is like, and how has that been?
Uh, you know, uh, um, Good question, because balance is a challenge, because as you say, you want to keep them excited, but you don't want them to feel like, oh my God, it's such a big difference, and it's such a it's insurmountable. It's impossible gap to cross. Or and that makes people disinterested. Sometimes if you show people Everest so quickly before they start climbing a mountain, they immediately give up because they feel it is impossible. They need to know where to start, where to begin. But ultimately, it's trying to toe that balance. I want to encourage that excitement. I want to I want to enforce that feeling, because I felt even as I got into varsity debating and it became more challenging and the challenges are so different. I still had that fun, when I got the chance to debate. I still had that feeling consistently. So I never want anyone to lose that when they join debating. So that is always my primary focus. But there are some times where you just have to be truthful. You have to be honest, and you give a particularly hard topic in one of the classes, or you are extra stern on nonchalant performances, because you have to set a reminder that debate is not all fun and games. It is fun when you become good, and to become good there's a long process, and that process is not fun. So it's all about sacrificing the fun now, so that when the time comes, you are prepared, and while everyone else is worried and anxious, you can have fun, because you're prepared, you're ready, you're experienced. So that is a tough balance. So it requires some uh, personality changes here and there when you're in classes, but that is what it takes, lah. So you cannot be the student's best friend all the time. You'd like to be, I'd like to be, but if you really want to teach and you really want to share, there are some times where you just have to set that line and make it clear that you are the coach, they are the student. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment a lot. Yeah. And it's like sometimes, especially I definitely don't have as much coaching experience as you, but like coaching itself, right? Especially in the beginning when you realize you had to do that, I assume that wasn't fun, right? Like having to be that stern person in front of all of them.
No, because I don't know if you've watched my debates. I'm quite an angry, stern person also. Sometimes when I give speeches, I can be quite emotionally charged. So I didn't have an issue. And to be honest, when I first started out, I didn't take it as seriously, actually. I just saw it as an opportunity to spend my weekends doing an activity I enjoy, which is being involved in debates. So I thought, go for it. Whatever happens, happens. But as the time passes, then only you start becoming more
Mm.
invested. So I never felt that feeling that you're talking about in the beginning. Because I never took it seriously. Only when I start taking it seriously and you start thinking about it, that's when you start feeling like, you start reflecting and start thinking, was I right to say that in class today? Was I particularly unnecessarily harsh? Because at the end of the day, these are children. How passionate I am in debates also. At the end of the day, some people, debate is not for everybody, number one. And number two, kids these days, the generation these days, they have their whole life ahead of them, because they do so many different things. So they explore their passions in so many unique ways so early. They do music, they do martial arts, they read books, they write books, they do poetry, they do this, they do that. They do so many things. So if even if debating is not for them, or they're not encouraged by this debating, what they're just not into it. They're just not into it. And I'm being harsh, I'm being stern, that I'm expecting commitment, that I'm expecting you to do your best, and sometimes you feel, why are you being so hard? Just let the kids be kids. So that can be difficult sometimes, because you don't know what you're doing. And you'll never know if it's right or wrong, because it's not as if next class they'll come and say, teacher, I had a long thought about what you said to me, and I realized that what you said to me was absolutely wrong, and you're a terrible, mean person, and I don't like you anymore. Or the opposite, I realized that what you told me was absolutely right, and I'm going to take it more serious from. They'll never have this conversation, and it will never happen. So you'll never know what your impact is on these students. If sometimes it's arrogant to even believe that you will have an impact. Just go to sleep, lah. Whatever you say, also the kids will forget it. They have their own TikToks and their worries to worry about. Why are they so worried about one random Indian guy yelling at them in class for a weekend? So it's just getting into that process to realize that what you're doing is important for these students, but not to the level where you are affecting how they live, and how they how they decide how to live. It's all about just that pocket you have with them, that 2 hours. What can you give them in respect of this wonderful spot? Yeah.
Mm. That's actually a perfect point. But what's even more perfect is that this is a fantastic segue into the next part, which is that I have a feeling I know where you got that ability to be stern. And I also noticed that you ranked sergeant
Yeah.
in the Boys Brigade.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm David, or should I say, Warrant Officer David of the Third Coaching
Oh,
Company.
wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
That's excellent. Excellent. BB
yeah,
handshake, man. I can't
maybe
separate
handshake.
my pinky as well, but yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. So BB, I assume especially like I mean I grew up in that time where like corporal punishment was like the thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I assume that would have had an impact as well on how you debated and how you went about not just debating, but I think life in general, right?
If it did, it was definitely subconscious. I enjoyed my time in Boys Brigade a lot actually, especially on greater reflection. But at the time, as I was going through it, I absolutely hated it. I made any excuse to skip meetings. I was always, I had to be on time lah, because I didn't want to be punished. But I would always be the moment that you were allowed to leave, I leave. The moment practice ended, I'm out of there. So because at the time I felt like I just want to go home. I want to nap. Why am I wasting my Saturday morning when everybody else in my class is enjoying their Saturday, doing whatever they want? I have to wake up at 7:30, get into uniform, and go and do physical activity. It feels absolutely stupid to me. But at the time, so that was what I was feeling at the time. But I still power through it, and my parents were particularly harsh on me to power through it, because they felt boys will have a very positive impact on my life. So as you say, the discipline, the punishment, the punctuality. I think one thing that I really got from Boys Brigade is punctuality, and I think that is the biggest credit I can give to 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 anything at the time of at that point in time in my life. I don't remember uh, studying much. I don't remember exams. I don't remember, and I remember the friends and all that, but I don't remember so many things. But what I do remember is that it's very important to be on time, and
Mhm.
that is what BB really gave to me, and I apply that everywhere in debates, in work. I like to be on time. I'm not very good at it sometimes. I flounder here and there, but it's a goal that I try to be on time anywhere I go. So that's what Boys Brigade really did for me. And on top of that is the other stuff, marching, playing in a
Mm.
band. It's very nice. We have a program every 2 years. It's called Festa. I don't. Is it still going around? David, is still
Yes.
going around?
This
Yeah,
year was
yeah.
in Sarawak,
This year's
back
in
home.
Sarawak. Oh
I
wow,
wasn't
wow.
there.
Oh wow, that's very sad. At the time when I went, I was 14. It was very scary because I had to go to. It was in Johor at the time, Punju High School. I still remember. 1 week, it was very scary, but I had so much fun. It was absolutely fantastic. And over the years, you go for many many camps with BB. And I'm not even a Christian. If I was, I'm not even a devout one. So I'm not particularly religious. But it never. And Boys Brigade is supposed to be a Christian organization. It's supposed to, is supposed to be active in the church and all that. But the company, second company I was in, never made it felt necessary. We did a lot of activities in the church, and we did a lot of stuff. We did caroling and all that, but it never felt an obligation to religion. It felt like this is just a good thing to do. This is just the right thing to do for your community, for uh, as an able-bodied citizen at the time. So that was great love. I'm glad we mentioned about Boys Brigade. I hardly ever get the opportunity to talk about it, but yeah, very important aspect of my life at the time. Gave me great memories.
Yeah, here to that. Honestly, especially on the part of punctuality, I find myself even coming from like halfway across Malaysia. So no matter what, I apply the exact same thing. So hearing you say that is like, okay, yep, this is it. This is the every BB boy relatable moment. But okay, going into work right after that, you said it affected work as well. But then working now, um, both debate and BB, how did that affect your choice to number one do law,
Yeah.
and number two, how did that affect the way that you went about your work now in law, like your pupillage and such?
Uh, to be honest with you, the reason why I chose law at the time, I still don't know why I chose law. Because I was terrible at science law. That is the first reason. Maths and science was not for me. So I got into art stream, and then at the time, the most prestigious or the most widely applicable degree in the art stream is law. Everyone will tell you that it doesn't matter what you want to be after you finish law school. The fact that you have completed law school or you have graduated law opens up so many things you can do, even if it is not has nothing to do with law. So even if you want to be you want to be in the bank, you want to be in consultancy, you want to be in academics, doing law stops you, doesn't stop you from doing any of those things. In fact, it makes it easier in some aspects because they can appreciate you completing a very challenging degree. Law is a very challenging degree. So that's why I just did law. But ultimately, why do I still stay in the industry? Is I think as I went through law school and as I'm working now in the legal industry, although only as a pupil, as a pupil, I feel that there are so many things about this industry that is something that I've already gone through in my life. Firstly, for example, the idea of discipline that you get from things like Boys Brigade. Secondly, the idea of dealing with rejection. Because one thing about the legal industry is, yes, it's a lot about being argumentative. It's a lot about how good you are in writing. It's very important to be good in English and BM, actually, if you are in Malaysia and you plan to practice in Malaysia. Language must be very important to you. Very true. But ultimately, I think the most important trait or very important trait to survive in the legal industry is dealing with rejection because you will get chewed out all the time. If not from your immediate superiors, it will be from your clients. If not from your clients, it will be from the courts. And you can be whoever you are. You can be the partner in one of the biggest firms in the world. But when you go to the court, the judge owns you, and a simple mistake can can make the situation where you are a small child being reprimanded by the kindergarten teacher. That is how it looks like. In some situations, the most famous lawyers, they are being chewed out because of a silly mistake they've made. But nonetheless, after the hearing is over, they laugh it off and they have a next hearing to go to. And because you have the next client to worry about. You have the next battle to win for a client. You cannot win every battle. No lawyer wins every battle. So it's all about dealing with the effect of every battle. How do you move on to the next one, next case, next client, next hearing? So that's the same thing in debates. Next round, next debate, next tournament. So that's what builds you to do that. So everything else, all the yelling that you will get from whoever, the clients, the courts, your bosses, the difficulty in dealing with language, in dealing with being argumentative, in uh, in dealing with an industry where you have to work many long hours. All of this is secondary because whatever you have gone through has already passed, and whatever you are going through has yet to come. So it's all about focus on what you can do moving forward. And eventually all the things that have passed, and before you know it, you're a lawyer. You're a person in the legal industry, and you're surviving, if not thriving. I find that to be the case for anyone who is willing to stay in the industry long enough. Yeah.
That's great. Really, no, like I love that because I've heard a lot of lawyers as well, like existing lawyers, end up always talking about like how much they disdain doing that exact protocol, right? Going through all of that. But I think to stay in that industry takes a lot of resilience, but with that resilience requires a lot of passion, and I think you exhibit that quite a lot. And yeah, I can
To
really
be
see
honest
that.
with you, I don't really have passion, lah. I believe in a socialist world where none of us have to work actually, but that's a separate story for another day. What I do think is, whatever my beliefs are, I cannot change what the world is. The world is as such where you need to earn in order to live. And in order to earn, you need to work. Might as well you do something that is meaningful. And while it is challenging and it is tough and it requires resilience, and I don't know if I will ever make it because I've only been here for such a short time. Maybe 1 year from now, I will say, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm out of here. Take me away. I'll be a teacher in the Sekolah Pondo or whatever. Yeah, that's more suitable for me. Um, what you do in the legal industry is meaningful for your clients, for law. You may not know how you are impacting or how you are creating or how you are contributing to the legal system, to the betterment of the legal system, but you are in the smallest things that you do. And that will take a whole other episode to unpack, but that is worth it, lah. And that is nice. It's not worth the trouble and the low paying salary, but it is acceptable in the meantime. And hopefully by then, if as you keep going, things will get better. One can only hope, lah. Yeah.
That's great. So, okay, I may have misjudged when I said that your passion was there, but I'm pretty sure I'd be accurate and say your passion still is in debating, right?
Yeah, I still enjoy debating. Yeah, I still enjoy debating. I
So
still
that
try to keep
said,
up to date. Yeah.
yeah, right? So you still keep in touch with everything, even up till now, doing your pupillage and everything, knowing that you're probably going to go into a legal career that might even be like the rest of your life, right? But that said, with how hard and how competitive being a lawyer can be, do you plan on ever like thinking, you know what, like as much as I love debating, I've got to step down, I got to stop, I got
I
to
think that
retire.
will I think that will organically happen. For anyone who loves debating, if you really want to stay in debating, you have to make it full time.
Mm,
Like there are some people who take the option to coach, and they're doing wonderful things out there, coaching full time. But they can do that because it's a full time thing. But um, eventually, it's something that I'd have to let go. And I've seen it happen to majority of my seniors. The best debaters, my seniors. certainly challenging for them to let go. But I think ultimately they've done a pretty good job letting go, because eventually you just move on to more important challenges in life. Even things like marriage, or things like children, it just happens. It just happens. It just phases out of your life. It will be sad, but you tell yourself that you never really have to let go of debating entirely. There'll always be an opportunity to give a speech at some point. Maybe you'll be called for a demonstration, or maybe you'll be asked to join a random tournament here and there, or you'll be asked to do one of these things. Who knows? Maybe 5 years from now, even though I've retired, another person will ask me to do a podcast on my debating, and I'll be like, oh wow, interesting, nice. So you never have to give up completely. Like, nothing's stopping you from never doing it again, but eventually you have to let go, lah. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right about that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I see that debating has followed you through high school, through university, and now into your pupillage. Has debate ever struck you as boring?
No, lah. No. There are aspects of it that I dread. Um, don't get me wrong. There are really aspects of it that I dread. Like, for example, what I really, really don't like is sometimes, after you finish a debate, it takes so long to get a decision from the judge, because the judge is taking so long to deliberate, to determine who they thought was the winner. And then, as the time passes by, you're just more and more anxious, and you just feel like, what, this is not worth it. Why am I allowing my self-esteem uh, be controlled by a random person who's taking an hour to decide who won the debate? But ultimately, you hear the result, and sometimes the result is great. Like, after 1 hour of extremely tough deliberation, we finally come to the conclusion that you are the winner, and you feel like, yeah, that's right. Sometimes it's the total opposite. After so long of deliberation, we have come to the conclusion that you are terrible and you are fourth. So please get lost. So you just, wow, 1 hour of anxiety only to find out that you are dog shit. Oh, sorry, apologies.
It's
Yeah,
fine, it's fine.
yeah. So that is frustrating. But it's not, but never boring, lah. Because the part of getting the motion, you suddenly get the topic, and then you're just in this zone, like, okay, I know what I have to do, and I have to start thinking what I have to do, and you only given such a short time to prepare. You just cannot think of all the other stuff, like, I really, really don't want to do this anymore. I'm really tired. You forget everything. That's why I've seen debaters, they're completely, uh, after they finish the day, after debating grues tirelessly, they go out, they have a fun night out. They go and celebrate, they go and enjoy themselves, they party. And then the next morning, they're completely hungover and they are tired. They've not had enough sleep. They're barely functioning on breakfast. And yet, when the motion is released, everything is just forgotten, because you cannot think of how tired you are. You cannot think, I really don't want to be here. I want to be on the bed. You don't have time for these feelings, for these thoughts. You just have to lock in. And that is not boring, and that makes it so exciting that you forget you forget how tired you are. You forget how frustrating it is. You forget how boring your life is. You forget about all your other problems. You're having problems with your girlfriend, he can wait. I'm focused on proving why Israel is a country that deserves to be torn to shreds, or whatever, because you have a motion to defend. So that's a very nice feeling, and I don't find many things that can do that. Yeah,
You're here.
yeah.
You're here. I feel that. Now, okay, it's already been an hour-ish. So, and I know that you've definitely got a crazy ton of work tomorrow. So we're gonna get into the last bit for this segment. Um, that's on your writing,
Mhm.
right? One of the things that we saw was that you wrote an entire article on literally culpable homicide, like just culpable homicide, like to get that extensive research on that topic.
To
So
be
you
fair, firstly, I
co-authored.
think, yeah, I co-authored exactly. Adam Huang, with Adam Huang. He was my senior at the time. he really guided me through it. He did actually most of the research, because I was new. I was the first year at the time. I just got into the law review. So he did a lot of the legwork, the majority of the legwork for the article at the time. Uh, but it was nonetheless a process I enjoyed because, you write essays for high school with the expectation that the more pages you write, the higher your score will be, because you want to be that kid that raises up the hand and say, teacher, give me more paper, because you have more things to write. But as you grow older, or as you get into law school and you get into the legal industry, you will realize that nothing is more valuable than getting to the point. A person that can get to the point is a person that can do anything in this field, because that is the most fundamental skill. How do you take something complex, something complicated, and dissect it in such manner that you have cut straight through all the complicated parts, and you have gotten straight to the point, and you have communicated exactly what you needed to in as little time, or with little time as possible. So that's what writing is about in the legal field. You want to communicate an extremely complicated idea to a general, unrelated third party that may not have as much access to research as you, but they still want this knowledge. But they still need to be able to understand. They still need to comprehend what you're trying to communicate. So that is what the law review helped me do. It helped me just how do you train yourself to get to the point. Yeah, I'm still getting there actually. I wouldn't say I'm that good at it, but I would say everybody is trying their best on their journey. I'm on my own. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, personally, I just started year one, and honestly, I'm already seeing that the whole idea of getting to the point. Yeah, no, you get really like you get apprehended when you waste too much of
Yeah.
your words.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, it sucks as well. But okay, after that, right? After doing that one bit for the law review, do you still write?
Not really. Not really. Writing is a skill that requires, especially in our industry, that requires time, effort, energy. And to do that, I would need to sacrifice on other aspects of my life that I really like doing. While I enjoy debating, it's not my life. I really like to play games. I like to play badminton. I like reading. I like listening to music. And these are all things that I really like to do that doesn't require me to continue training the skill. You can call it lazy if you want. I agree. A lot of people are working much harder, but yeah. So that's part of the reason why I mainly dropped writing. Maybe at some point it will be a thing again, but for now, I think whatever writing I do is drafting for work. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that's kind of everything. But before we really wrap up, just want to get a quote on this, right? And it's a standard question. I'm sure I've been asked it many times, but for people who want to be inspired to debate, and for people not just teens, not just kids coming into high school, but even people like me now
Yeah.
in my age group or even older, what's that one thing you would say to them if you could?
I'd say I'd say that in so many aspects of your life, nobody will give you 7 minutes unfettered to make your claim, to make your point. Nobody will do that. Even your parents won't do that. If you try to time yourself having a conversation with your parents, they will not let you get through 5 minutes without interjecting and saying something, either to say that they are uninterested, either to change the topic, either to interject with their opinion because they feel they've heard enough. And same thing, they want to show that they are right. Standard. And that is true in any case, in any interaction you have with your friends, all the time, nobody, it's always going to be a front and back. It's not going to be that 7 minutes of complete freedom where you get to say whatever you want. And that is what debating gives you. It gives you that opportunity. That 7 minutes is yours. Nobody can do anything about it. You can literally say whatever you want. You want to go out there and say, I love the Nazis? You can. There are consequences to that. Of course, they are, but you can. And nobody can stop you. Nobody can stop you. Nobody can, the police cannot out of nowhere come into the room. How can you say that? Keep quiet. You can't do that. So that freedom is very liberating. And getting that opportunity to do that when so many things in your life you may feel like you're suppressed, you're oppressed. You don't have an opportunity to speak. You don't have an opportunity to speak your mind. You don't have an opportunity to for someone to listen. Debate is exactly that. 7 minutes, the judge is forced to listen. It's literally his job to do that. And your opponents, they have to listen because they have to respond. If they don't respond, they won't win. So if they don't listen, they won't win. So you literally have a room of people that are forced to hear you speak. So air it out. That's the opportunity. Yeah. You may be talking about political issues, but what you are actually letting out is your frustrations in your style, in your personality as you speak, in your responses, in how you approach your responses, in how you think to respond against the speaker before you. So these are all things that if you don't have the opportunity through debate, it will be bottled and locked in. That's unhealthy. Yeah. Either find an outlet or join debating.
Yeah. I think speaking to you today has really brought out the beauty that debating gives and shows. It's like we've talked about being team captain, we've talked about working, we've talked about being in debate, but it ultimately boils down to the time you get the motion and the minute you open your mouth to speak, that everything else just falls silent and it's just you,
Mhm.
the motion, and the timer.
Exactly. Beautifully put. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, folks, just debate lah.
Just debate. I agree. Just debate lah.
No, yeah. But here, really, that's a fantastic sentiment, and that I think, guys, is a fantastic way to end it off and cap it off for today. Uh, Thanks so much, Ram, for being here.
No worries. Thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, honestly, this one session went so beautifully, and I think that's mainly because you are an incredibly interesting person. You've done so much in your time, and honestly, I think you have so much more to grow. And we'll definitely, I think maybe the second, third, or fourth season, we'll be checking in with you
Yeah, no worries. I'd
on
love
what
to.
happens next. 100%. No, thanks so much for being here, man.
No worries. No worries. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, David. I had a great time.
Thank you so much for your time. We wish you nothing but the best in debating and beyond.
Y'all also, I mean, I'm much older than all of you. So life is just ahead of you. Do whatever you want, really. I'm sure the sky's the limit. Yeah.